The Center for American Progress did an investigative report to see how much money has been spent on spreading Islamophobia in the United States. This is a really fascinating investigative report because they found out that there are organizations that have spent a total of $42 million since 2001 to 2009 on spreading Islamophobia in the United States. So I want to give you guys some of the numbers that you can see on the screen right now. There are 7 major charities or foundations that have donated money to the cause, and I want to list them for you guys. There's Donors Capital Fund, which has donated over $20 million between 2001 and 2009, and the list goes on and on. You can see the numbers right there for a total of $42.5 million.
This is the right-wing version of charity. Let's spread fear and hatred. So look at all of that money. You know what it buys you? It buys you press. What they do is they create reports that say, oh, did you know Islam is really dangerous and they'd like to take over the government? Who is it the reports by? The guys that they gave the money to, right? To write these nonsense reports that don't have anything to do with facts. And then they take that and go, oh, I have a report, I have a report. And they go on TV, they go on Fox News.
Right.
They go on conservative talk radio and they spread it. In some of the swing districts, they did an insane number of CDs and DVDs that they actually direct mailed to people. They spent all this money to make sure that people hated Muslims.
Right. And you know what? It's very destructive to the U.S. because what you're seeing now is you're seeing these fake controversies. For instance, the so-called Ground Zero Mosque, right? That was a controversy that was so fake, and it was all stirred up by these organizations that want to spread all of this hate toward the Muslim community.
Let me get more into detail on that, right? The so-called Ground Zero Mosque was actually a community center. It was not on Ground Zero at all. And the guy who was the head of it actually used to lecture the FBI. The FBI would bring him in to talk about how the different religions got along. That's how much the government trusted him. So where do they get the so-called facts to write these so-called reports? They just made it up. Frank Gaffney, he's one of the guys, major guys that got all this money to make up this stuff, comes in and says, oh, this is so that the Muslims can rub it in America's face. Ha ha, we built a mosque on top of 9/11, Ground Zero, and so we're going to impose our Sharia law on all the rest of you. Now, did anybody say that? No. Gaffney just made it up, right? And then this huge brouhaha, totally helped by the mainstream media, grows around it, and next thing you know, Americans' views of Muslims has gone down since 2002. Do you understand that? After 9/11, our view of Muslims is actually not that bad, even after 9/11. But in those 10 years, they spent all that money to make sure we hated Muslims, and they sent out all those DVDs and they created all these fake controversies, and in the end, what happened? What's the result? Now 49% of the country says they don't really like Islam and they think there's something wrong with it. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that number has gone up dramatically because of this propaganda. So why do they do the propaganda? That's a good question. I'm sure they have a number of different reasons for it. You have to have an enemy, you have to have a boogeyman. So for example, if you don't have an enemy, what can we spend all that defense money on, right? So you have to tell us that it's an existential threat and we're about to get taken over and the Cold War is over. There is no real major threat in the world. Well, we got to create one so we can keep those defense contracts going. Now, is it related? I don't know. Maybe it's just convenient that their ideology goes along that ways. If you don't like Muslims overall, does that help right-wing Israeli groups who say, hey, you know what? Palestinians equals terrorists. Muslim equals Palestinian. You don't want to help anybody who's Palestinian. You don't want to give them an independent state. Now, I don't want you to get crazy here because sometimes we do these videos and then people say, oh, Jews this, it drives me crazy. The guy who funded the research on this was George Soros, who's also Jewish, who funded the research to expose this,
right.
Okay? And so it's not about any of that, right? But it is about right-wingers in whatever category they're in, right? Saying, hey, our vision of charity is to spend a lot of money to make sure you are scared and that you hate other people. It's sickening. It's, as usual with the right wing, grotesque.